I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry.
Welcome to season 3. Can you believe it?
Big deal.
We did it.
We've done it. We did it.
What was our total of episodes? I can't remember that we tabulated from last season.
Oh my God.
Probably should have had that closer
That's
to
a really good question. But I want to say we're like well into the 50 plus.
Oh gosh, no. I think it's
range
more.
Of all the episodes we've done?
Yeah, I thought it was like in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
Either way.
Either way, there's a lot of episodes.
You know what? And what really excited me about this summer, we did take a bit of a hiatus.
Yes.
Thank you for your patience because, gosh, damn, did we need a vacay?
Yes.
And we took it and it was perfect. But a lot of folks went back to listen.
I was so surprised because you never know. You take a couple
never
weeks off. You don't know. People are going to forget about us.
Totally.
And like the numbers were really high, which was like, I guess it just shows you that people listen on their own, at their own pace.
Yeah.
And podcasting is so different than, let's say, a TV show, for example, where it's like how many people tuned in that day.
True.
Or I know with streaming, it's a little bit different, but it's about downloads as well. I just feel like people just go, they choose it like a menu. And it's pretty good, pretty great.
So season 3, changes abound. And all of our beautiful listeners would have already seen our new logo.
Yay.
Oh, God damn,
I love
it's good.
it. That
So
was the best
good.
day. That was so much fun.
I mean, we had so much fun.
I feel like we have too much fun. I'm like, is this work when we are together? Like that was so, we got glam.
Yeah.
We like had the photographer here. There was music. It was just such a great day.
It was a really good day.
It was so fun.
And our logo is proof of how good of a day it was because how fun is that picture?
Oh my God. It was great.
So it's all us, all Dirty Laundry. We're still airing it out. Not really much has changed other than the logo. And of course our font.
Yes.
And
our font.
Our what did you call it?
I looked at the font and I was like, something is familiar about this font with our picture. Like, I mean, there's something that it's like something nostalgic. I can't put my finger on it. I think it took me I think you were watching my brain process.
I really was.
You were like, what?
And I was like, it's reminding me of something too, but like I can't ever get to names and things.
And then I was like, I think I jumped up and I was like, Pretty Woman.
Oh, and then we both jumped up and danced. And high-fived.
It was
high-tend.
That was pretty like cringy, but
it was so cringy. Our children would have been mortified. But we were delighted.
We were dancing. We were like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because our initial one was sort of inspired by Dirty Dancing, right? Because I love like the dirty and like the font and whatever. And so now it's our new branding is inspired by another classic movie.
So classic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So new logo, but same fabulous hosts, same incredible guests. For this episode, should we just go right in?
It's such an interesting story. And like, it's a story that I had heard a few times because I've known Monica for many, many years and she's a very dear friend. But so it was interesting for me to bring the story to our show and watch yours and Ryan's reaction to it because it is quite incredible, her story.
I mean, she is incredible.
She is incredible. Like, this is a woman who is completely self-made, who has faced a lot of adversity.
Yeah.
Moved across the world with 2 babies on her own and has built herself an empire. So with that, I am so excited to welcome Monica Neish because she really is like a queen.
And I just want to thank her.
Yes.
For all of you out there that she came onto our show with such bravery, such vulnerability, such honesty. And as we know, these stories are not easy to tell.
No.
Divorce, relationship, parenting. Like, we are asking a lot of our guests that come on to share their story.
Yeah.
And share she did.
Share she did.
So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right in.
Let's dive right in.
This is definitely going to be the Amanda Show episode.
No, it's not the Amanda Show. It's the Monica Show.
Yes.
I am like giddy with excitement that you're here.
Me too.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Our worlds colliding.
Our worlds colliding.
Finally.
My therapist is in the building.
Yes. Yes, she is.
Monica Neish, who I've known for how many years?
Oh boy, we're really aging ourselves
Just
here.
a little bit. Since high school. 14?
I think we're getting close to
about
that.
14 years.
Yes, I really do.
We've been together through it all.
And
you have the most incredible story, which always just, like, it. Honestly, it's jaw-dropping. It's an incredible story. And I want to hear all about it. I'm so glad that you're on to share it. And I've always been inspired by your perseverance and the fact that you've just been through a lot and are such a success. And you have these beautiful girls who are also, just like mini versions of you. And I'm so happy that you're here. So with that, we want to welcome you to Dirty Laundry, and we'd love to hear, a little bit about your story, because I don't think I'll do it justice by even summarizing it.
I think you could.
I
You
could.
certainly know a lot.
I do know a lot.
Thank you for having me, both of you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a huge fan of you and now you, Alex, and your podcast and all that you've accomplished together and separately. So thank you. I appreciate it. It's really an honor to be asked to be a guest, and that's why I answered so quickly when you asked me. I was like, let's do it.
This is going to be such a love fest.
Oh my God. We've been through so much. I feel like sitting in your chair, getting my hair done, you just share it all, right?
Yes.
And like, I think I started with you, I was not even married or had a baby yet or anything like that. And like,
I think you were married, but I don't think you had any children at that point.
Maybe.
Yes.
And so you've just sort of been.
Yeah, I believe I saw you through like 2 kids, a divorce,
career changes, life. And it's just like.
Career changes.
Yeah. A lot.
And here you are.
Well, thank you. But
stronger, better than ever. Just
also
saying.
a badass
Just saying.
success
Period.
story.
Just
Agreed.
saying.
Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're inspirational.
Thank you. Thank you, Mom. So, and I always walk away from my sessions with you
feeling
obviously they're
sessions.
sessions. They're full sessions with like a new lease on life. I've got all this advice, and like I always just so appreciate being able to just be in this like safe space where we just both of us share our stories and our trials and tribulations and like can laugh and cry, and like it's just like it's like family, because I feel like I've known your whole you've shared so much with me personally, and I think it's a real special bond.
Thank you. It is a special bond.
Yeah.
We're literally tied together.
We really are.
Forever.
We really are.
Tell us the story. Some of us
So the story.
I don't know where you want me to start.
Let's start from the beginning. I'm going to
me.
prompt you. Let's start from the beginning. I don't know how many years ago it was. You moved to Japan, which is a new country, new language. You moved there to work, learned the language, met your then husband there, had 2 babies, twins, and then needed to leave.
Yes.
So what was that like?
So I actually moved to Japan with my first husband. So there's actually 2 ex-husbands there, which is great because all my exes don't live in Texas. They all live in Japan. So that's really good. And I was really young when I married my first husband. And we both decided to move to Japan because I had a career opportunity. And I was actually working with Mattel. And it didn't really have a whole lot to do with hair, but there was some hair in it. But the long story short, I was working as part of a doll collection. And when you're in your early 20s, you're like, okay, you're going to pay me to, move to Japan, do a modeling gig. And it was supposed to be for a year, and then it just sort of continued. So actually moving there with my first husband, and we separated pretty quickly. I was there within 10 months. I was like, you know what? We're really not. We had dated for several years, but I was very young. And I was like, I'm out in the world and I'm exploring, and I realized that we're not for each other. So not a lot of animosity there. I just kind of up and moved out and got my own place. He continued to stay and work, and my opportunities grew. So I ended up staying. And then fast forward, I guess I had been there about 4 years, 4 to 5 years by the time that I had been introduced to Tomoyoshi. And that's actually, turns out, he's the birth father of my twin daughters, Erica and Serena. So he's actually quite a famous man in Japan, ironically. And he was really the one that tracked me down because he had seen me, some of the billboards. We'd been at some events together. He's a very famous chef, but he's also involved in like F1, Formula One, things like that as sort of his side gig.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not just making cakes, he's out racing cars. And so because I was sort of in the promotional modeling world and whatnot, he was the one that I had arranged. He had asked his agent to reach out to my agent so that he could meet me. And he ended up, I was actually working also in like a hostess lounge, as one does in Japan, where you sit and you serve very expensive whiskey to very famous, wealthy, really interesting men. Now, it's not a sexual exchange. It's nothing like that. It's very common, very legal. And it was a great way for me to learn Japanese because I would request to be on tables. You work with other women from other countries and Japan. And it's fascinating because I'm very fascinated by languages. I'm pretty linguistic. So I was like, you know what? Instead of just wasting my time at night drinking and partying, I'll work in this hostess lounge and use it as a way to, make a little extra money, but learn a language. And the longer I was there, the more I would request to be on tables where only Japanese was being spoken. So that's actually how I really got a foundation of speaking Japanese. And then fast forward, that's actually how I ended up meeting Tomoyoshi because he had found out that I was working in a particular very elite lounge. He made an appointment to a booking. And after several visits where he was not allowed to sit with me, they sort of played that game there. He finally had 10 or 20 minutes with me to chat. And then that was it. I was just sort of intrigued by him, as one is, on the other side of the world, in another culture and in another language.
You're so young.
And he didn't speak English. His grasp of English was probably 5 words. He could introduce himself. And at that point, because I had been in Japan for almost 5 years at that point, I had a pretty good understanding of the language. So to me, it was, it was kind of cute. It was kind of fun. Here's this guy. I could tell he had a crush on me right away. He worked very hard to get to have some time to chat with me. And he asked me to spend a day in another city, surrounding area. I got a chance to tour Japan. What could go wrong? So that's sort of how I met Tomoyoshi.
And in your marriage, how was that with the language? Did you still feel like you could have, deep, meaningful conversations, or was there always a bit of disconnect because of the language barrier?
Yeah. And to kind of go back, we had met, we started, we had a friendship, we dated, it was moving very quickly. And with the language barrier, for sure, this was, we were dating with the dictionary. I would have, it was long before, iPhone, Google Translate.
Yeah.
So I literally would bring a dictionary on our dates. And then the relationship moved very quickly. And I was not married to him when I found out that I was pregnant by him. He had actually arranged, ironically, there is no real Christmas in Japan. Okay. So for the December 24th, he had taken me to this fabulous hotel. And he had a chef there that was going to make a Christmas dinner. And he actually proposed to me then. And then it turns out that when I did find out that I was pregnant, surprise, that we count back the weeks to was actually December 24th.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's so
so we weren't married. All of a sudden, after dating a man for only 4 months, I found myself pregnant.
This is like the Immaculate Conception story.
Oh, it really is.
It's true.
It really kind of is. So that was
Sister Monica over here.
Yes, Sister Monica indeed. So that was an interesting phone call to my father and to my parents.
Who was very conservative.
Actually, my dad my dad passed away about a year and a half ago. But the ripe old age of 92 and of fairly natural causes. So we were pretty lucky. But, he was always very open-minded. He's an Anglican minister, and that was the best way to grow up. And he was very supportive of all people, all faiths, all cultures. So we were very lucky to grow up like that. I mean, I'm very much a Christian, very much an Anglican, but my dad, one of his very best friends was a rabbi. Every Monday they would go out to they try a different pub every Monday, and they would go have a lunch. And it was something that, and my dad would come back and talk about it. So it was always really important to my dad to have friends from other cultures and faiths. And he brought that to us. So
I was going to say, you are living proof of that.
I'm the living proof. And I was a little nervous to make the phone call from Japan to say, hi, haven't talked to you guys in a while, but I've met someone. Great. And I'm like, and I'm engaged. Great. And I'm pregnant. Okay. With twins. And they're like,
was that all one conversation?
All one conversation.
Talking about ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yeah. Well, I thought, you know what? I've got to say it all. And because the relationship it moved very quickly.
Mhm.
I wasn't calling them every month to say from the other side. I was pretty young. And again, no, there wasn't really any texting and things like that. So I would save up, all my information for my calls home.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Get those long distance minutes in.
I'm not going to lie. I was a little nervous for that one. So I may have stalled a little bit on that. Yes.
Yeah. What do they say when you have to announce your pregnancy or tell your father you're pregnant? It's really the first time you have to say like, I had sex.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's so true.
I know. You're
That's why it's so
thinking about
nerve-wracking.
that.
Yeah.
Well, I'd already had one marriage under my belt,
Okay.
so I suspect my father.
Was hip
Maybe
to
he
it?
didn't. He may have suspected there was some intimacy going on there, or maybe there wasn't because I left him. But yes, it's always an interesting. But I think my parents were excited for me because again, I'm also adopted. There's 4 of us in my family, 2 girls and 2 boys. I'm the youngest, and I think they were just excited for the fact that maybe I was sounded happy and I was going to experience something so life altering. And I'm not going to lie, I really had to wait. I weighed out my options. I was engaged to this man, but I didn't feel like I knew him that well as you do with 4 months. And also I was speaking another language with him, and it was so quick and I wasn't planned that even though he had proposed to me, I really was sort of thinking to myself in the moments that I was alone, if this was really a good idea. I weighed out like, maybe I should place these girls. Well, I didn't know they were girls at the time, but place them for adoption. Like all of this was going through my mind. Like I don't know him very well. And he started very early on exhibiting some very strange behavior. So I really was contemplating. The months went on, my belly was growing, and he was he was exhibiting very strange behavior. So there was reasons for me to really think about whether this was the best idea. And then obviously I landed on that I would go through with the pregnancy, and then I would see how it went. And things became stranger yet.
So did you wait until you had the babies to get married? Or
Yeah,
did you do that?
we were married in the sense that we were married on paper. I really delayed. He wanted to have a big ceremony. It's a bit of a big deal in Japan. They do quite a few traditional things.
Yeah.
And actually in the modern Japan, they actually do like a traditional, they're Shinto, which is a form of Buddhism.
Oh.
So they have their own type of ceremony. And then because they're sort of influenced younger demographic with the Western world, they do sort of a westernized marriage. So it's a longer story. I was still actually married to my ex-husband at the time that I gave birth to the girls. And that is because he refused to sign the papers. And we had gotten married in Canada. So when you go to get divorced and you're in a foreign country, you still have to contact your Canadian lawyers.
Yes,
and
or mediators. Yes, you do.
Or mediators.
To divorce in the country that
Yeah,
you're
you
in.
have to.
Yes.
Exactly.
And he was
And the province that you were married
and
in
yes,
as well.
and he was avoiding me.
Yeah.
And we're talking a lot of time had gone on.
Yeah.
And I had left, tracking him down was very hard too, because, we didn't live in the same apartment anymore. He had moved. There wasn't a real reason to stay in touch.
Right.
And it took a while to be honest. Like it took to the girls being 2
Wow.
by the time that we were, and the only way that he actually ended up signing the documents is because once the girls were born, for Japanese law, whoever you are married to at the time that you give birth is whose name and who has and is financially responsible.
So he would have been financially responsible for your girls.
That's right. So he had been avoiding, for 2.5 years. And because during my pregnancy, but after giving birth, and he was avoiding the documents. So we hit him with, court documents requesting him to come.
Yeah.
And we all met at a courthouse in Japan. And I had the girl's father with me, Tomoyoshi, and I call him my ex-husband, even though we weren't officially divorced yet.
Right.
And we entered the courtroom, and then my ex-husband came in and immediately made a beeline for Tomoyoshi and threw a punch at him.
No.
And then Tomoyoshi went low to give him like a kick because he's into Taekwondo. And my ex-husband really loved boxing. And then security is swarming, and the two of them are in a fist fight because this is the first time that those two men would have been in the same room, had never seen each other. Yeah, so they separated them. They proceeded with the court hearing with them in separate rooms. And I just remember the staff running between the two rooms because they were very afraid that they wouldn't be able to keep. My ex-husband's really tall, and they had a lot of security on him because he was like, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. So we kind of had to do the hearing with them sort of separated. And I just remember, this is insane. And then he finally said to me, as we all left, we were leaving, and he said, I'll give you what you want. And I said, yeah, you're going to give me what you want because now you've been asked to pay child support.
Right.
So, but I think he just wanted to punch my ex-husband in the head, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But he also, I think, wanted to look me in the eyes and say that. So that was that. So then he finally signed the divorce papers. I had to pay him because I was making more money, which was fine, fair game, because it had gone the other way around.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was that. So that was good. So then I was free to actually marry Tomoyoshi then.
Wow. So aside from this being a great story that you can now recount, how were you? I mean, that's scary. That's emotional. You've got fresh babies. You're maybe having postpartum, hormones, and
she's in a country without any
you're
family.
in a foreign country. You have no support system.
and speaks the language as a second language, right?
It's lovely to be able to sort of laugh about it now, but I imagine at that time you're young, you're a new mom. This is a lot.
It was a lot. I was young. It was confusing. Everything was always done in Japanese. They weren't translating. I had a good grasp of the language, but I do not read and write. That's totally different.
Nuance too.
And it was all happening. I felt like it was all happening without my this being my choice.
Like to you. It was happening to you?
It was happening to me.
Right.
I knew at that point, though, that I wanted to actually leave Tomoyoshi at that point. And because a lot had sort of gone on over the course of the first and second year of my children being born, and he was not the man that I thought he was. So I was nervous. I was scared. His parents were distant. I always felt like something was going on that I wasn't privy to. I felt like when I walked into the room, everyone stopped talking. No one spoke English. So I was scared. I was nervous. I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
I wanted to get back to Canada. I knew something strange was going on. And there's only so long that you can sort of dismiss this as, well, I'm not from here, or this isn't my, first language. So that's sort of where I was at.
Yeah, you can excuse a lot of things when it's not the culture that you're familiar with or the language.
But your gut tells you something. Your gut doesn't speak different language. Like your gut speaks one language, and it's like you know when there's something.
And I'm
off.
on a work visa.
Right.
I'm not a permanent resident. After I had the girls and I wasn't working, I was at home being a mom to the twins. That's when I started to realize that the man that I was engaged to and had children with had another life. There was a whole other double life going on because he kept disappearing, strange people coming to the door, people warning me when I was out in the city, coming up to me. A random woman in a grocery store would come up and say, your life is in jeopardy, and walk away.
Oh, wow.
And this, I'm not exaggerating on my children's life. This is what was happening to me. And I would sort of think, okay, that was weird. Maybe, I don't know, maybe she, thought I was someone else.
Right.
And then being in a restaurant, and the girl's father would go to the washroom, and someone would come into the booth and say, you don't know the man that you're with. You're in danger. And I'm alone. I'm confused. I don't know if I'm being set up. It was terrifying. So then you get into investigative mode, and I'm like, you know what? I'm young. I'm from Canada. I'm going to look into this. I don't know what's happening. And my girlfriend and I had made friends with a really great girl who's half Japanese, half American. And she was a big help to me. And she's like, we're going to have to investigate this and see what's going on. So slowly we started to, there was different business cards in his suits that he'd left on the floor. Got into investigative mode, right? And we started to piece together that he had some pretty serious ties with some of sort of the underbelly community, a very dangerous, really it's a mafia community.
Right.
And it was through the racing that he was doing on the side. And I often had wondered, because we were driving a lot of very fancy vehicles. I felt like we were living beyond our means too. He was very successful. But I mean, we were driving, cars that were like $500,000.
Right.
And I was like, there's no way. And
Wasn't
I
adding
just,
up.
and so certain people that we were interacting with. And then I got into Mama Bear mode, because once I really realized that the disappearances, he left once for like 3 days and never came back. I was couldn't get a hold of him.
Oh, wow.
No communication. People showing up to the door asking for him, looking for money,
Oh my God.
threatening. I got one
That's
threat,
scary.
and that was it for me.
Yeah.
Someone came to the door and said that we would need to make a choice between basically paying a debt or losing a body part. And I was like, okay, so what does one do in a foreign country?
Yeah.
I went to the embassy. I didn't know what else to do. There no friend is and you're not going to call your parents and say, I wouldn't do that to my parents also.
And what can they do,
Yeah.
your parents, from the
my
other side of the
parents-
world?
And my parents had come to visit us when the girls were born. They were
Yeah.
6 weeks when my parents came.
Okay.
I knew then something strange was going on. Just when I'd given birth at 6 weeks, I always knew through my pregnancy, you always know that
Yeah.
spidey sense we're talking
Yeah.
about. And I didn't want to put it, I was calling my sister. She lives in Vancouver. And she's like, just go back with them.
Right.
Just say to, Tomoyoshi that you want to go home for a little bit.
Just a
My
visit.
sister's like, just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it now. It'll be
They're
and then
there.
never go
Here's your
back.
opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And I couldn't do it. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And then, another year ticks by, another 6 months tick by. And then when it starts to become very apparent that either he's messed with somebody or there are other women, there's at least one other woman with one of his children, a son.
Wow.
And there's probably several more. There was a whole other life going. And I'm like, I have to get out now.
Yeah.
And I literally went downtown and made a beeline to the embassy.
Wow.
I walked up to the
Babies
little
in
window.
tow?
Oh my
You
God.
know?
It's
No.
a movie.
No,
It's like
I
a
was
movie.
staying with my mother-in-law.
Okay.
And because I would go out, but I was also quite often being followed. And that was something that I was quite keenly aware of, that Tomoyoshi would have. And everywhere
He would
I
have you
went.
followed.
If I went out with my girlfriends and we went to shoot pool or something, I was always being watched, always being followed. They always felt that I shouldn't be going out either. That family, they're like, "Why do you need to go out? You should just stay and be a
home."
mother."
Right.
And I was like, "No, I want to visit with my friends. I'm from another culture. This is what we do."
Right.
I went to the embassy. I went up to the desk and the plexiglass, and they're like, "Are you here to renew your passport?" And I'm like, "No, I need help." And the person at the front desk was not equipped for that. And they're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, I need to speak to I didn't know what to say. A special
Movies?
agent.
Yeah.
I said, I need
Yeah.
an agent to come out and talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian and I need help getting back to my country.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the person was like, "You're Canadian. You can leave. This is Japan."
Right.
And so I waited and I waited and I waited and I waited for a few hours. And then finally somebody came out, and it was a woman, which I was thankful for.
Appreciative, yeah.
Shout out to the men, but I just knew that maybe,
Yeah.
she would understand that feeling of like,
Yes.
I have 2 children that are here and are Japanese citizens, and I need you to listen to this crazy story.
Yeah.
And so they took me into the office and we started the dialogue of what I felt was happening. And she was sort of like, "Okay, well, we'll get back to you. We'll look into this, go
Okay.
home, make sure that everything's normal,
Yeah.
and then we'll reconvene." And that's what started, which took 8 months to get me out of the country.
Whoa. 8 months.
Yeah, 8 months of their investigation.
Right.
Tune in next week for part 2 of Monica's incredible story.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, to give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.